Recording in progress.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so our first item is, as usual, open forum, and a couple of announcements for open forum. The Westford Cemetery Commission and the Westford Museum and Historical Society, in partnership with the Boston Tea Party Ships and Museum, is going to be placing a commemorative marker at the gravesite of Boston Tea Party participant Captain Joseph Reed on Saturday, October 15th at 1:00 p.m. At the Fairview Cemetery. Captain Reed was a prominent person here in Westford, and he took part in the Boston Tea Party. And so on Saturday, as I said, the Cemetery Commission and the museum and the Boston Tea Party Ships and Museum will be placing a commemorative wreath on his grave. And so the public is certainly welcome and invited to attend. So there is that. And then I believe the planning board and Eric, help me out if I get this wrong, okay? But the planning board and it's actually the land use management department currently has 2 active surveys on its website, through the town website. The first one relates to a state mandate that Westford, as an MBTA adjacent community, we're required under state law to amend our zoning bylaws to allow for as of right multifamily housing development by the end of 2024. So the land use management department is conducting a survey in connection with that mandate. And then the second survey is exploring creating additional commercial recreational opportunities in town. Both surveys are on the town's main webpage. If you go there, you'll find them under news and announcements, and are open until the end of this week. The land use department would really appreciate it if people could go to the town website and fill out those surveys. So those are my announcements. Anybody from the board? Yep, Tom, and then Scott.
Special town meeting.
Yep, I know. I leave it. Yep, a week from tonight.
Right. Yeah, it'll be Monday night, Westford Academy Gym at 7 o'clock. See you there. Thanks.
Scott?
Yeah, 2 things. So one is Westford has a Commission on Disabilities that we formed several years ago. The states get rather strict guidelines in terms of composition and numbers. And that is a quarter of a problem if you fall below those numbers. And right now we are, so we can't even have a legal meeting. And yet this is a community of individuals that really need some representation. So if you are somebody with disabilities, family of somebody, those are requirements, as part of the state to be part of this committee. But please, take a look at the charter and see if you would like to serve, and fill out an application on the town website, because we would really like to have that committee become active once again. And secondly, on a more happy note, on Sunday from 12 to 4, there is a international block party at the Franco Club on Prescott Street. It's free to enter and come, and you can find vendors for your favorite ethnic foods, entertainment, and various tables of information.
Great, thank you. And I see we have 2 folks from the audience who have their hands up. So first, Terry Stater. Hi, Terry.
Hello, sorry. Yeah, in my email, I think I had mentioned that we would like to know if any of the select board representatives would like to speak at the Fairview on Saturday. Saturday. It was just an option. we have several guest speakers and stuff going on, but we wanted to invite a member of the select board if they would like to say any words at Captain Reed's ceremony.
Okay, we'll get back to you.
Sure. Yeah, no worries. I just
Okay.
wanted to extend that invitation is really okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you,
Right.
Carrie.
Okay.
And then Diane Wood has her hand up.
Hi, everybody. Just want to remind everybody that tomorrow night, Wednesday night at 7:30, the League of Women Voters Town Preview is on. So anybody interested in attending can go to the League of Women Voters of Westford site and register for the meeting tomorrow night at 7:30.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, with that, we're moving right along to our consent agenda. And we have a request to approve the following. A street road closure for a neighborhood block party. The applicant is Deborah Huskin. The date is Saturday, October 15th from 2 to 9 p.m. at 12 to 17 Fairview Drive. And we have a request for the use of the town common and bandstand for Veterans Day. The applicant is Ryan Cobley, our Veteran Services Officer. The date is Friday, November 11th from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Although the event time is from 10:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. So is there a motion to approve the consent agenda subject to public officers' recommendations?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor, Scott?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We're at our 7:10 p.m. item, which is a request to update and revise the hunting on, says Board of Selectmen, but it's now on Select Board Land Policy, established on October 14th, 2014, to permit residents to hunt on a second location if the lottery is undersubscribed. And I believe that Robert Walter has brought that request to our attention. And I think in essence, it's, I think, and I'll let Mr. Walter speak for himself, but I believe that he is looking for a second permit for hunting. So Mr. Walter, if you want to add anything to that, I'll let you speak, and then the board can talk about whether we want to revise our policy, although part of our policy, I think, as everybody saw in our packets, is going to be revised. Most of the revisions are all really pretty, aren't substantive, but are really made to reflect the fact that we are now the select board versus the Board of Selectmen. So Mr. Walter.
Yes.
Hi.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time. You're a very kind organization that allows hunters like myself to hunt on town property. We have 7 parcels. There are 22 permits that are granted each year. And so far on average, there's been about 9 applicants each year. So what I'd ask perhaps, and I want to do it in such a way that minimizes the effort of Patty and the town hall office. So I'd request that if a hunter would like, and it would probably be in about the September timeframe after the lottery is completed, if they could apply for a second parcel. There's certainly, based on demand, sufficient elbow room, so to speak. And it wouldn't just be for me, Andrea, it would be for any of the hunters that apply.
Yep.
If it's undersubscribed, to apply for a second one. And I'd say probably in person with Patty, and I think it would be very reasonable, but I defer to your group to grant that authority. And it would probably require a bit of an amendment to the current policy, but it would be greatly appreciated.
Okay, thank you. Comments from the board? Thoughts? Scott?
I mean, it makes sense to me. We've got, we at one point believe we had sufficient land and to conduct 22 hunters safely. If we don't have that many, we may as well let those who are applying up with a one chance at a parcel. So I'd be in favor.
Any other comments? Yep, Tom?
I'd agree with Scott. I think it makes a lot of sense and appreciate the recommendation. And I guess procedurally, I don't know if we need someone to draft a amendment or.
Well, I think, Eric, I know you're out there, in our packets, I believe, there was an amendment, the policy was amendment, good. Let's try that again. The policy was amended to add that option, along with, as I said, changing the Board of Selectmen to the Select Board. So, and Anita, I see you. I just wanted Eric to get that up so we can take a look at it. If you scroll down just a little, there you go. Thanks, Eric. You know, it says if the lottery is undersubscribed, an applicant may apply for a second specified parcel. So, Anita?
Yeah, I didn't have any concerns about this request either, and I thought it was reasonable. I agree with Scott and Tom. My only question is, since it's a policy, is this something that legal needs to review, this updated version?
I think we could approve it subject to, you know, to legal looking at it. I think that's the only substantive change we're making. The rest of it is, you know, like I said, Board of Selectmen to Select Board,
Right.
changing, you know, Tadmuck, street to Tadmuck Road, North Main. So, but I guess that would be my suggestion, is if folks are all agreeing, and it sounds like we are, is that we vote to approve the policy, just subject to review by town council.
Yeah, I would add, Andrea, at the end of, in the middle of the page there, where it says, if the lottery is undersubscribed, an applicant may apply for a second parcel, a second specified parcel. I'd say the application would likely be best in person, because the selection as it's made, everyone ranks their respective parcels in order that they prefer. And I understand that would likely have been if it was ever oversubscribed. That way you'd get a second one. I just add something to the effect, Eric, of that the application would be in person at town hall. That way, if someone didn't necessarily want or need their second parcel, their second selection would not be automatically kicked in. It would be sort of a in-person application for that second parcel, if you don't understand what I'm saying.
I think so. I think what you're saying is that, I guess what you're saying is that when the applicants submit their application, they list in their ranking of what parcel they want.
Correct.
And so I think what you're saying is you just want to make sure that if, say you, Robert, are the person asking for a second parcel, that you don't automatically get was ranked second on your list, as opposed to you can go in and in person ask for whatever that second parcel is that you want, right? Is that right?
Exactly.
Okay. So I think we could, if people if the board's agreeable, I think we could say if the lottery is undersubscribed, an applicant may apply in person at town hall for a second specified parcel.
Yeah, and something first come, first served. That way.
Well, I don't know that we need to add that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay.
So Anita, or so Andrea, I'll make the motion as amended.
Okay.
I'll second it.
All right. Great. All those in favor? Anita?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Aye. All right. All right. We are at, although we are early, and Anita, let me ask you, because we are 15 minutes early, do you want to wait and do a couple of other things before we take up the joint meeting with the DEI?
I would, if you don't mind.
Yep,
Come
no,
back to it.
not a problem. Let's see. We don't have minutes tonight, do we? Let me see. Is Joe? Joe, you are here. Why don't we? Let's go to old and new business. And under actually, I'm wondering if people, since that's at 8:55, there could be actually, there could be abutters who might want to attend that, so let's not do that one. How about if we go to number 2, request to approve and sign the November 8th, 2022 state election warrant. Yeah, if we can do that. So is there a motion to approve and sign the November 8th, 2022? And this is the state election warrant. So it's the state election with the 4 ballot questions on it. Scott?
Just, I always ask the question because I never remember. Do you have to physically sign it, Patty, or is it electronic?
Well, the state, I think the state warrant is fine if it's electronic. It's more the town meeting, the thing that I sent to the Attorney General, that I always like to get the real signatures, which I actually didn't, so we'll find out. But no, I don't, I don't need it. That's fine. Thanks.
So with that, Scott, wouldn't you like to make a motion to approve?
Yeah, so moved.
Thanks. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, Scott?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Okay. We have a request from the town clerk to appoint election officers for terms expiring on July 31st, 2023. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second.
It's okay. All those in favor, John?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
And then we have a request from the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee to appoint Shri Devi Kaul as an alternate member for a term expiring on June 30th, 2023. Is there a motion to appoint?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Second.
All those in favor, John?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Anybody have board reports or updates?
I think, did you vote, Andrea?
Did I what?
Did you vote on that one?
Oh, I didn't. You're right. Aye. Thank you. Okay. Now with that, anybody have board reports or updates? Not seeing any. Okay. Hey, Eric, let's go to contracts and purchase orders, okay? But you have to unmute yourself first.
I see that. Thank you.
Okay.
So the first item is a memorandum of understanding for Eastern Salt for road salt for the 2022-23 winter season in the amount of $77.28 per ton as requested by the DPW. Rico Digital Imaging Group for record digitalization services at the service rate specified in the meeting packet as requested by the town manager and assessor's offices. I'm going to ask that we skip IntelliBeam LLC. Cybercon for the installation of radio equipment as part of a public safety communication safe upgrade project in the amount of $160,911 as requested actually by the Public Safety Communications Department, as well as this one as well for Motorola for the purchase of radio equipment for public safety communications upgrade project in the amount of $533,712 as requested by the Communications Department as well. And last but not least, the purchase order for Franklin Paint for field marking paint in the amount of $15,000.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
In a second?
Second.
Second.
All those in favor, Tom?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. How about under town manager's report? We have a request to approve amendments to the non-union personnel policies and procedures. If you remember, we are updating, we took a look at our policies and procedures and particularly our vacation time and recognized, the board recognized that we were having some difficulty within the municipal employment world of being competitive with other municipalities, because our vacation policy lagged behind other municipalities. We only grant 2 weeks of vacation time to non-union personnel. So we discussed amending that to allow for 3 weeks of vacation dependent upon experience, with the approval of the town manager. And also, I think, allowing also up to 4 weeks of vacation, again, dependent upon experience and with the approval of the town manager. And then we looked at the sick leave policy and amended the sick leave policy to make it clear that, sick leave covers, sickness, injury, accidents, exposure to contagious disease, both for the employee and the employees or the employee's family, and making it clear that that would be covered under our policy. Sick leave would cover that under our policy as well. So I don't know if anybody has any questions or concerns about that.
Oh, good to me.
Okay, and I don't see any from the audience. So is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second? Okay, all those in favor, Tom,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Anita,
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're getting there, Anita.
That's okay. I mean, I know we're just like 7 minutes away. If it's easier to, I know some of the other topics are kind of
Mhm.
meatier. Happy to go over DEI if you'd like.
Okay, why don't we, if you think, if you're ready, let's go back to DEI and a joint meeting with them to discuss priorities.
And Eric, do you want me to, or maybe members of the DEI committee could raise their hand so then we can bring you in as panelists?
That'd be great. And actually Dan's in the background helping, so that's really
Oh,
helpful.
Dan, thank you, Dan. So I see Anjali Scott Harkness. Nancy Cook is also on DEI, but her hand's not raised. It might be us for tonight, or at least this great core of people. So while everyone's logging on and turning on their cameras, thanks, Andrea, for scooting things around so that we can get closer to 7:30 and be closer to the agenda time for this topic.
We're just so efficient tonight.
Yeah, we're too fast. We're too fast. This is not like us. But so we're here before you today because we wanted to talk a little bit, or spend a few minutes talking with the select board about the select board's priorities related to DEI. So DEI is, the DEI committee is at a place or position now where we're trying to figure out or prioritize the committee's priorities for the upcoming year. Last year, or the year or so ago, we were splitting up between 3 subcommittees. There was policy subcommittee, school subcommittee, and outreach. And some of that work has been completed. Some of that work we're hoping to continue on, such as the school subcommittee work, but not as a subcommittee anymore. But anyways, through that conversation, the committee really wanted to hear directly from the select board what the select board's priorities are for DEI in general for the town, so that we could make sure that we're being responsive to the select board's priorities and just kind of all in alignment together.
Okay. So do members of the board have any response or comments to Anita and the DEI committee about what we're thinking of, what our priorities are, or what we'd like, suggestions? Because I think, at least from my perspective, we, happy to give you suggestions, and, but at the end of the day, I'm not insulted if you folks who have been doing this work decide, well, that's a really good idea, but, not right now. So I don't, And it's not usually the habit of the select board to dictate to our committees, how what they do and what actions they take, but, happy to give you input for all of you to consider as you move forward. So with that, I saw that John Cunningham had his hand up.
Well, it's kind of difficult to do that. Could you, Anita, and the committee kind of bring us up to date on what you've been doing or what you've done? It's been a while since the DEI committee has updated us on what's been happening, and recognizing that most of your charter is to make recommendations for the select board to take action. So I kind of like the feeling for where you've been and where you think you are here in this effort. Maybe they'd give us a better idea of where we want to go. You talk about policy. Have you seen policies that need to be changed? Have any been changed? So it just at a loss to say, what has happened. I know you came forward on the Indigenous Peoples Day. You looked at that, made recommendations on that. But could you kind of tell the board where you are, or where you've gone?
Totally fair question. I'll go first, and members of the DEI committee are welcome to jump in. And so I think in addition to advising the select board, in addition to kind of recapping what you were saying the charge was for the DEI committee for the select board, the committee saw themselves as that advisory committee, as sort of like a sounding board. So I just wanted to kind of address that before I move forward. So in addition to the Indigenous Peoples Day and the recommendation that the DEI presented to the select board, they did split up into those 3 subcommittees for a while. And one of them completed a school DEI survey, and that went out to families. And so they were sharing that information with the schools, and they're hoping to, moving forward, continue to kind of bridge the communication gap between the DEI team and the town DEI committee. But it's really to kind of understand about how families, how they feel, I guess, about in town, or as parents of students in the Westford Public Schools, and where there are opportunities for better communication or engagement. There was a subcommittee on policies, town policies, and that one, Anjali and Nancy actually spearheaded. And so they reviewed hiring policies. Scott Harkness was also another spearheader in that committee. And so they actually reviewed the hiring process, sat through, I think, what the hiring process was like, offered recommendations for questions to include in the hiring practices. I think that one is still kind of gray, especially as we embark on the town manager hiring process, having the next town manager come in, really talk about culture, retention, recruitment, staffing. There's a lot more work that we could do there, or there's a lot of change potentially happening, or not change. So I think that should still kind of be on the radar, or could be on the radar. And then the last piece was around outreach. So there was a communications team. So you'll see stuff on social media immediately kind of crafted by Joe Diamond, who's not here tonight, as a reaction, or kind of as a way for to be sort of a leader or a voice about national events or things that might be happening in the community related to DEI. Was that helpful?
That's partly what I was looking for.
Yeah.
And I guess I'd be more interested right now, policies, things that we need to do as a town to make things better, and those recommendations that you would be making to the select board for that.
So I'm just gonna, I think I love that idea, right? I'm a policy person. I think that's great. But do you think it's like staffing policies? Do you think it's like, we just had like a hunting policy, like stuff like that? What do you think?
Well, it's just, staffing, recruiting, anything that your committee identifies needing attention.
Tom?
Yeah, thanks, Anita, and thanks everyone who's been working on this, because it's a big job. I guess one thing that seemed like something we could focus on, and I'm glad to hear that there's already been a policy review, it seems like the main thing we have a lot of ability to help improve, both on the town and the school side, is how are we doing with recruiting? Where are we recruiting? How are we doing in terms of other towns like us? How are we doing in terms of retention? I know on the school side, I'd heard that from a number of sources that when we recruited people, there was not a lot of support when they got here. And so a lot of people didn't stay. I'd just be interested in any kind of information we have about that and what we could do to improve. And I think if we could reach out to the schools, and obviously the DAI committee is central, and then the town, I'd love to have a joint meeting, maybe at some point where we could look at how are we doing in that regard, get whatever information we have, because it seems like there's an opportunity to improve there, I think. And so maybe I have another idea too, but I'll stop there and see. It looks like we have a
Yes.
little bit of input there.
Anjali,
Anjali. So
sorry, Anjali, I'm sorry.
no problem. It's very hard. It's a very difficult name to pronounce anyway. So, and Tom, I will just quickly answer your question about the retention. We initially focused on the town policies in the hiring practices, and that's where we provided the recommendation on the questions and how we can make our new recruits who are really more diverse from the thought process, and what to expect from them and what they can expect when they are being hired within the town. We didn't focus on what are the retention measures that the town is taking as far as the staff is concerned. We didn't tap into their exit interview process, the data they may have. That being said, there is an opportunity, and if that's what the select board would identify as an area where we can help. I'm an HR professional, have been working in HR for 16 plus years. This is my job, basically talent acquisition, retention, and policies and whatnot. So I'll be happy to partner with other members of the DEI team and contribute as much as possible in whatever is needed. So we can definitely take a note that this is what is on your radar moving forward in the next 1 year, but we just need some confirmation on what is exactly your priority for the next 1 year so that we can spearhead our efforts in that direction. Thank you.
Anita?
Yeah, we're very lucky to have Anjali's expertise on our team and our committee. But I guess I would just add that in general, we could, boil the ocean really with DEI issues, right? And so it's really trying to figure out what is our scope, what's low hanging fruit, what can we work on now, understanding that, there might be something for now, something to kind of work towards in 3 years, something in 5 years. So if it's hiring and retention of town staff, or maybe it's like committees and volunteers, maybe that's something that we can focus on or bring back to the committee for discussion. But, I think that we want to do everything. And I think that's part of the issue too with this committee, where we're also approached by all of these issues of, just kind of running the gamut of anything related possibly to DEI. DEI has to weigh in on that. And so it's hard to kind of go in back and forth of what is our focused mission for this year, but then also remember we have to be that resource to the town and kind of getting pulled in a lot of directions. I think a lot of that happened this past year.
Tom, I know you had another point you wanted to make.
Well, so thank you, Anita, and thank you, Anjali, about sort of the work that's already happening. Maybe just to narrow it a little bit, I'd love to just know what is the profile of the group that we're recruiting from? What does the retention look like when people leave? People of color, when they leave, what's behind what they're thinking? I don't know if that helps to narrow it. The other thing that I'm interested in is a public safety related sort of engagement. And I think this is really an assignment for the public safety leaders in town. How are they reaching out to all the diverse communities in town? So maybe this is a smaller assignment or request, but maybe just a team with the chiefs of the fire department and police department on what's the best way to go about that. I would love to hear in 6 months a report from both the chiefs. This is how we've reached out to people of color. This is how we've reached out to people in diverse communities in town. This is what we've learned. This is how we've learned how we have to react differently. And so maybe there's a short assignment to help sort of facilitate, give them advice, I guess, on how they might engage in that discussion. So that would be, if I was going to make a priority list, that would be a smaller ask. And the bigger ask might be on the town school staffing, recruiting, retention piece.
So I guess, oh, go ahead, Anita, and then I'll chime in and go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say this has been very helpful, but I see a couple other hands, so maybe other people. want to say
Okay.
something.
Scott Harkness and then Scott Hazelton.
We did have a meeting with Chief of Police and it was helpful, and I think that's one thing we can do. I think the diversity end of DEI, what we can do is in hiring. I'm not sure how. We did look at what the pool is, and it's a very limited pool that we can work from because of the need for having be pre-qualified working in municipal government. So if you open it up to the jobs to Indeed, you get a huge number of people and they don't have that municipal government experience. So the place to look for employees is in through the municipal government website. And I can't remember off the top of my head what it is, but that's where the recruitment's usually done from. And that's the limiting factor there is that the people you're looking at have already had municipal experience. So one of the things that we might consider is doing something to help bring some diversity in first time, allowing people to participate as an employee in the municipal government for the first time without having experience. And I'm not sure how to do that. It's just one of the things that might help broaden the pool of who we can hire from.
Okay. And then Scott Hazelton. You're muted, Scott.
Sorry. Yeah, I guess you have two thoughts. One was, I don't know how you fix this, but there's sort of, I think, there's policy issues that are, I would say, easy, but they're understandable and they're things the government does. Then there's what I guess we call the human condition. I mean, in this town, our actual experience in terms of negative experience has been graffiti that was racist, in this case, anti-Semitic. And of course, we've had recently with one of our so-called entertainers make some similar comments this week. So I think some of this is just, we don't always think about what is hurtful. We don't always understand other cultures. So I guess part of my hope for this committee had been to create community discussion with across our ethnic groups to have share culture, share food, share food is always a great unifier, right? What can we do formally, informally as a town to do more things together across that ethnic spectrum. And secondly, when I first got involved with the Commission on Disabilities, the first thing that we do is take a look at other towns, other commissions, and say, well, what were their priorities? And I don't know what you may have done or not done in terms of looking at other towns' DEI committees and what they've made as priorities, because that could help perhaps inform us what our priorities might want to be too.
Anita?
Yeah, that's a really good point, Scott. And that is something that I think came up during our last DEI committee meeting, building connections and relationships with other DEI committees in the region. I know that we've already connected with the Chelmsford one, which is very active. So yeah, that's great. Thank you very much. Thanks so much for time on the agenda.
Certainly, no, thank you for coming. I hope we've been helpful. I guess I would just like to add, to everything that's been added, said, and I'm not sure that this is I don't know that this is a priority or as much as sort of something, just a sort of an overarching kind of theme, I guess is how I would put it, which is, you know, community outreach and community, you know, communication outreach with our community, you know, whether it's at times education, but, you know, making sure that, you know, we are creating a welcoming community across our town and in all of our departments. And if we're not, how do we fix that and how do we address that? And I realize that that is like a huge, you know, goal that you really have to sort of take apart and think about. But I guess that's kind of the overarching theme that I see here is that, you know, how do we just make sure that, you know, that our community is one that, you know, values diversity and equity and inclusion. And, you know, if we, and where we see that it's not happening, how do we encourage that to happen? And what changes do we have to make to encourage that to happen? And I do think hiring and staffing and looking at how is certainly a place where we can start. And not only with staff, but as somebody said, also with just committees. How do we, you know, how do we make sure that, you know, our committees are inclusive? And how do we reach these folks and encourage them to become part of the town's our volunteer network, which is, you know, really at the end of the day, it's that, you know, I believe it's our volunteer network that makes this town run. So those are just my thoughts.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks all for your hard work. You know, appreciate it. If you need more from us, want more from us, you know, I'm sure you'll let us know. Great. Thank you. Okay. We're at our 7:50 p.m. item, which is special town meeting, which is Monday, October 17th at 7 p.m. in the Westford Academy gym. And we need to go through the final articles. The FinCom has given us their recommendations. Why don't we can now run through these and vote and take positions ourselves. Dan, I assume that you're going to run through these because they're all fiscal articles, except for the last one, which is the zoning bylaw. And I know Jeff Morissette is out there to help us with that.
Sure, I can do so. Would you like me to show the motions on the screen, Andrea?
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Right. Okay. All right, first one is Article 2 to approve fiscal year 2023 budget adjustments. Do you want me to run through each one?
Yeah, I mean, there aren't that many, so, but if you could, that would be helpful.
Absolutely. So first up, we have the Finance Committee reserve to replenish the fund. They had appropriated $20,465 for the cost estimating for the library earlier this year, and another $16,800 for the executive search firm to hire a new town manager. This will bring the balance back up to $125,000. The assessors are requesting $7,500 for an appraisal with regard to the Westford Regency. They're trying to appeal the value of the Regency by a substantial amount. So we want to make sure that we're protecting our stance on this too, but we do need that expertise. The town clerk, of course, they have to do mailing postage for 3 additional elections this year. We also had to pay for the printing of another ballot for November 8th for the town election. So she's investing $16,135. The police department is asking for $31,403 for personal services. About half of that is because 5 of our officers are obtaining their master's degrees, and the other half is to pay for an additional day of training. The state is mandating that we go from 4 days to 5 days. For the expenses of $3,800, that's for a piece of policy management software to help address accreditation and post-C requirements. The fire department personal services is all for overtime. I believe we just hired our last firefighter medic. So, the overtime should see a drop off after this point, but this is to pay for the overtime since July 1st. Sealer weights and measures. This was a big one. the state stopped providing services for us. So now we're going through NIMCOG. This is for half the year. We have a $3,000 already appropriated annual town meeting. So this will be a total cost for half the year of $7,762. The total price for the following year will be $15,524. Westford Public Schools requested $76,500. They're planning to use it on decodable text for all the elementary schools, provide a unified district-wide curriculum for our growing EL student population, and then funding allows, they want to put projectors in some of the elementary gymnasiums. And last in this section, we have recycling expenses. We have been getting charged fuel surcharge of about $2,000 a month for the first 3 months. Just anything over $3.17 we are assessed a surcharge. But also the paper market crashed. And Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we received a bill for $7,000 in processing costs this past month.
Yes,
So,
that's correct.
this could be temporary. We're going to watch it. If we have to supplement again at March, we'll do so. But right now, we're not sure where that market's going. Last year, we made over $30,000 with the sharing the processing fees. So this is quite the 180 that happened here.
Mm.
And last up, we have $40,000 coming from free cash to supplement fire department expenses to buy some supplies, including IV pumps, powered suction units, and training mannequins.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? All right, I'm not seeing any, and I don't see any from the audience. So is there a motion to recommend approval of Article 2?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, Anita,
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aye. So, okay. Article 3.
Right, this is a FY23 budget transfer. We only have one here. We're requesting to transfer $12,600 from public buildings personal services to the accounting personal services budget. Essentially, when Jeff Goodwin became the facilities director, he had a proposal to the select board and school committee to not replace his position, but rather give authority to other positions. And part of that is having the town facility bills keyed by accounting. We have a person who has 30 hours a week and we can move her up to 37.5, and she can handle all of that billing for us. And this does not impact benefits.
Okay, any questions from anybody? I don't see any. Is there a motion to recommend to support?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor, Scott?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, 4.
All right, approve fiscal year 2023 capital appropriations. We have 5 requests here. The first is for an electric vehicle for the assessors department. Currently,
Can you get the motion up, Dan? Or
Uh-huh.
Eric, who's ever doing that?
that's my fault, sorry about that.
That's okay.
First up, we have the assessor's vehicle, the electric vehicle requesting. Currently, the assistant assessor is usually out of the office on making appointments between 10 and 2 is using his own vehicle. And they have requested to have a vehicle for the department to use. And of course, it's open for the whole town hall to share. For the public buildings, this is for the fence along 53 Main Street. Working with the neighbor to build a fence there and cut back some of the trees because they're getting all over the cruisers and personal vehicles. So this is our recommendation to fix that issue. For the building, they're looking for a new SUV that's a hybrid. They need a vehicle they can go through construction sites. So the electric vehicle did not work, the smaller vehicle. So Eric did find a hybrid replacement for them. Again, we have the engineering request for the Beaver Brook Bridge construction phase services for coming when school lets out in June. That's when I think they're going to begin construction out there. And then below we have the Boston Road design amendment. It's $195,000 total coming from all these different sources, including the general fund, stormwater enterprise, water enterprise, and rideshare money from the state in the amount of $1,855 to use towards road construction projects.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Yes, John, and then Scott.
Dan, on that engineering, $25,000 for the Beaver Brook Bridge construction, we just got $2 million from the federal government on that bridge project. Would that affect this need at all?
I actually know, so I know Steve's out there, but this is part of the non-participating costs that the town is responsible for. And Steve, if you want to add anything, please.
Okay, thanks.
Joy, are you able to hear me?
Yep, we can.
Yeah, so Dan's correct. This is considered a non-participating item. The $2 million that we received is for the construction of the bridge itself. This wouldn't qualify under that 2 million. So it's a portion that the town has to fund itself.
Okay, thanks.
And Scott, you had a question.
Nope, John asked. I'm all set. Thanks.
Okay, I think it was the same question we all had because I had that one too. So great. All right. Don't see any other questions. So is there a motion to recommend to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thanks. All those in favor? Tom?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Article 6.
Are we on 5?
Oh, I'm sorry, Article 5. Article 5. I forgot. So Article 5.
So Article 5 is a new center building at 51 Main Street. We're requesting to authorize bonds in the amount of $11,010,000 and appropriate $1 million from free cash. Have any amount of detail you want.
You know, we've certainly heard the presentation on this a couple of times, so I don't know if anybody has any questions for Dan, and I don't see any from the audience. So unless anyone has any questions, I would certainly entertain a motion to recommend approval.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
and all those in favor, Scott?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aye. Next is Article 6, which is the library.
Okay, so library article, we're requesting that the town authorize $32,546,009. Again, this is offset by a grant of $7,851,994. And the library does plan to fundraise about 1.3 million. So we're left with total bonding of around 23.4 million that we are requesting to issue bonds for.
Okay, and again, I know that, you know, we've heard the presentation on this many times as well. So unless anybody has any questions, and I guess my only question, and it isn't so much about the building, Ellen, I know you're out there. I'm just wondering if you've heard anything from the legislature yet about providing additional funding.
So one of the waitlisted libraries reported today that Senator Bruce Tarr is working on an initiative to get additional funding and draft legislation. We don't believe that we'll know anything by next Monday night, but that's very heartening. 12 yet to be built libraries and 3 libraries just starting construction are all, avidly waiting to hear news on that front.
Sure, great. Thanks, appreciate the update. Okay, is there a motion to recommend approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
And all those in favor? Scott?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Article 7.
All right, this is the article that we have each year that balances the budget at special town meeting. This year, we're just requesting one appropriation, $150,000 from recreation retained earnings. We had come to this board at the last meeting and request ARPA funding amount of $167,128, and that combined with this $150,000 closes the revenue gap for the rec enterprise for FY23. With this, we could balance our budget.
Okay, any questions or comments? Not seeing any. Is there a motion to recommend?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Second.
All those in favor, John,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Aye. And last but not least, Article 9, which is to amend our zoning bylaw with respect to accessory dwelling units. Jeff, is it you or Joe who's going to speak to this or tell us about this?
It's me this evening, so hopefully your hearts are not broken that Jeff's not here tonight. So this zoning bylaw amendment is through a joint effort from the Planning Board and the Zoning Board of Appeals. So it really looks to accomplish two main themes. One is actually the way the bylaw is written currently. If I were looking to purchase a home here in Westford and looking to buy because it had an accessory dwelling unit, and I'm not proposing any changes to the dwelling, the way the bylaw is written, the special permit lapses upon the transfer of ownership. So I, as the seller, would have to go back in front of the Board of Appeals through a long public hearing process that throws a little bit of uncertainty. It throws additional cost, and could throw off the timing of buying and selling any house that I'm looking to sell or the other person is looking to buy. So it just creates a lot of uncertainty and a lot of problems for the transfer of ownership of property involving ADUs. So we're looking to create a mechanism for allowing that transfer of ownership where somebody can simply file an updated affidavit with the town in a timely manner and not make somebody have to go through that additional public hearing process where no changes to the dwelling are happening. The other main change to the bylaw is looking through research on accessory dwelling units that have been approved over several years. A lot of the variance applications that have come before the board are for really smaller ADUs for homes that are older, more modest sized homes, because the current bylaw language is makes your accessory dwelling unit size allowance based on the square footage of the home. So the proposed change is to make it a flat allowance for anyone looking to have an ADU on their property. It's still a special permit process through the Board of Appeals, but it just makes it so that it's flat across the board, no matter whether you have a larger home or a more modest size home. So those are the kind of the large changes. If there's any questions, I'm here and happy to answer.
Questions from folks?
No.
Not seeing any. Scott.
I have a question, just observing that not only is this, going through the process twice, costly for the homeowner, it's also paying for ZBA. It's already heard all the arguments once to go through it a second time. So I think it's good for the town and for the buyers. So I'd make a motion to support.
Okay, is there a second?
I second.
Okay, and all those in favor, Scott,
Aye.
Anita,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aye. All right, and I believe that concludes, since we only have 11 articles, we've taken positions in all of them. So we'll see everybody on Monday, October 17th. Okay, we have been very efficient tonight, but we're just going to continue to go through our agenda at this point. So we have a request to authorize the tree warden to approve National Grid's proposed plan to trim and prune trees and woody vegetation in the town's right-of-way along Circuit 57L1 as part of their 2022 vegetation management plan at the following locations: Concord Road from Littleton Road to 74 Concord Road, Concord Road from Littleton Road to Powers Road, Flag Road from Kelly Road to 21 Flag Road, Hildreth Street from Concord Road to Dove Lane, Howard Road, Phillips Drive, and Wright Lane. Steve Cronin, are you going to speak to this? And I guess also Neil Duran is also with us, who's the manager of forestry from National Grid.
Yes, thank you. Steve Cronin, Director of Public Works. So each year, National Grid submits to us a list of roads that they plan to perform selective trimming along circuits of overhead wires throughout town. As a tree warden, I'm responsible for approving any trimming of public shade trees within the right of way. What's not included on the list in front of you is trimming that they plan to do as well along Route 110, which is in the state layout. So all told, it's about 7 miles worth of trimming and pruning to maintain their overhead wires and to make sure that they're reliable throughout the year.
Do we mark the trees in any way that are going to be trimmed and pruned so that you know, the residents on some of on these roadways will know what's going to happen? And are we going to give them notification when this takes place?
Hi, this is Neil.
Hi.
So we do not mark individual trees. What we do is every abutting abutter, as well as people of private trees that would be trimmed, will receive a door hanger with a direct phone number for the individuals who are actually doing the tree trimming. So they have a direct link of communication with no middleman. If they have any questions about how their tree is going to be trimmed, or they have specific concerns about their tree or the town's tree that's in front of their property in regards to tree trimming up against the wires.
And this notification, do they get it in time so that they can actually call National Grid and question National Grid, and that, you know, National Grid just doesn't show up on their doorstep, you know, 4 hours after they've gotten notification or 24 hours after they've gotten notification? We're a community that loves our trees.
Yep. No, and so we follow the state law, which is 48 hours of notification. And typically we try to do about 2 weeks ahead of time. The contractor currently is holding off on notification until we receive approval from the town. Currently they're working in Salisbury, and I'd say they have at least another 3 to 4 weeks up in Salisbury before they would be ready to start looking at work in Westford.
Okay, Scott?
Just to be abundantly clear, we're talking about trimming and no trees get removed in this process, correct?
So we are trimming, and the only trees that we remove would be brushy vegetation right up against the poles that have grown up. So stuff that we 5 years ago, when we last trimmed the circuit, that we removed small brush from under the wires that grows up through the wires. So it's just reestablishing what we've maintained for the last 15, 20 years.
And as the second question, I guess the contractor is an arborist, right? I mean, they will be qualified to trim in such a way that the tree is not killed off, you know, from over pruning.
Correct. They follow ANSI standards, which is the industry standards for tree trimming. If there's an individual case where the tree is grown through the wire and they have concerns about how hard it's going to be trimmed, that'll be something that we address with Steve.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions or concerns? Okay, I guess I just really want to emphasize that you give before you start any project, that you give all of our abutters and residents sufficient notice so that they can reach out to whomever they need to reach out to with any questions or concerns.
Yep, and that is the standard process for what they do. This contractor specifically has done work in Andover, North Andover, Boxford, without any complaints, and I don't see why anything will be any different in Westford.
I hope you're right. Okay, is there a motion to authorize the tree warden? Oh, let me, before I do that, so Steve, have you seen, it says to approve National Grid's proposed plan. So have you seen the plan?
Yes, I've seen the plan. It was attached to the memo that we submitted in support of our recommendation to approve.
And I was just going to say, and you're okay with the plan, and you're recommending that we approve it?
Yes, we've driven the route, and it certainly warrants trimming and pruning at this point. So yes, I would recommend it.
All right. Okay, thank you. So is there a motion to authorize the tree warden to approve National Grid's proposed plan to trim and prune trees and woody vegetation?
So moved.
In a second.
Second.
And all those in favor, Tom?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, old and new business. So we have a request to accept the following easements. A sidewalk and trail easement on Carlisle Road at Balsam Circle. Why don't we do these? Why don't we do these one at a time, since if there are any questions or concerns about each of them. So look, Joe, looks like you're going to be addressing these again as well. So let's, first is the sidewalk and trail easement on Carlisle Road at Balsam Circle.
Sure. So each one of these, I guess, just as a general overview for all of them, or a follow-up on Article 14 from town meeting.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So they were all called out in the article, you know, kind of basically because they weren't necessarily obvious to anybody for, you know, a sidewalk right along a right of way, for instance. So all these items are basically follow-up from town meeting. They've all been reviewed to form by town council. They were all projects that were approved at the planning board and conservation commission. So
okay,
you have a few of them here. There'll be a few more, you know, sometime in the near future once they've been able to get through the town council review.
All right.
These have been reviewed by town council, so that's why we wanted to bring at least a few of them to you.
Okay, so let me just announce what they are. So it is a request to accept the following easements: a sidewalk and trail easement on Carlisle Road at Balsam Circle, a trail access utility and drainage easement for Juniper Hill Estates, formerly 75 Graniteville Road, a sidewalk easement pertaining to lots 4, 5, and 6 associated with the redevelopment of 124 Main Street, formerly Hicks Farm, and a trail access and utility easement for Cloverleaf Fields, formerly 22 Griffin Road. Joe, I have one question about the sidewalk easement on 124 Main Street, Hicks Farm. Is that going to connect into the sidewalk that is there?
That is an excellent question. I think at this point, it will not, but at least set up so that way that connection in the future can be made. I'd have to double check.
Yeah, I think, I don't know how far it'll, I think if you're at lots 4, 5, and 6, you'll have a gap. The sidewalk ends at Kersey Circle. And I think across from Fairview Cemetery, I think you'll have a gap from the other side of Kersey Circle to the Hicks property, and then probably another gap from the Hicks property to the other end of Kersey Circle. And what would be really nice at some point is if we could connect all of that so that basically you'd have a sidewalk on that side of Main Street running all the way from Kersey Circle past Hicks Farm, past the other end of Kersey Circle to where it crosses over, and then you can get to the Little Plaza where Main Street Convenience and Westford House of Pizza is. So
right, that would be great. That is, I think, you know, some of the ultimate goals in that area. So this is, you know, one step towards that.
Scott?
Well, actually, along those lines, so I guess we could ask the Pedestrian Safety Committee to make that a priority, because right now it's not, only because we didn't know about it. So if we get that under, probably too late to go on our agenda for tomorrow night, but for the next meeting after that, we could
take
a look at it.
Great, thank you, appreciate it. All right, with that, is there a motion? Is there a motion to accept the easements as listed here tonight?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Scott?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
And I. Okay, we did 2, 3, and 4. We did board reports and updates. Town managers report. Okay, we have a request from the Director of Council on Aging to fund a full-time van driver in the amount of $17,250 utilizing ARPA funds due to vacancies in the department through March 30th, 2023. Dan or Eric, can one of you speak to this, or Scott?
My question was this part of our ARPA review process, or is this something outside of that?
Well, we brought it up sort of outside of our ARPA review process because And I guess, I don't know if Eric or Dan can speak to this, but when speaking with Jody, this has become an immediate need that the Council on Aging, due to vacancies, are having significant and serious problems staffing their van drivers, which is obviously affecting their ability to serve our residents. And so therefore, just funding it between now and March 30th, 2023 with ARPA funds so that the van service can continue without interruption. So that was why I brought it up outside of, I put it on the agenda outside of, our usual ARPA review.
Fair enough, thanks.
Eric or Dan, do either one of you want to add something to that?
I think you covered it very well, but maybe Dan has something.
Okay.
Sure, we're just trying to fund the gap between now and the annual town meeting where we're going to request to put funding on the warrant for that because we know ARPA funds should be used for one-time purchases. So I'm working with Jennifer and Claire France right now on the budget request for next year.
Great, thanks. Okay, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
And all those in favor, Tom?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we have consider approval of the budget policy direction for fiscal year 2024. Dan or Eric, I don't know which one of you is screen sharing, but can you put the directive up?
Absolutely.
It should look fairly familiar to folks.
There were some minor changes.
Dan, do you want to point out just for anybody who's looking at this for the first time, minor changes? Then Anita, I see you have your hand up with either a comment or a question. So Dan?
Sure, I'll put the track changes on. Mostly is changing the year. And then under allocate 1.5 million for capital expenses, we got rid of if possible. It is possible this year. There's no need to give that that language there. And then last year we were evaluating moving to the partially self-funded health insurance plan. Now we actually have it established, so it's to basically monitor the balance, see how we're doing. It's all new to us. We're about 6 months in, and support a FY24 health insurance budget that is in line with the trustees' recommendations.
Okay, Anita?
I had a question about the one right above the Health Insurance Trust Fund about the Town and School Safety Task Force recommendations. And is that something that's that we anticipate coming down the pike from the task force to select board, or is the status of the task force pending?
Yeah, that was my question as well, Anita, is where we are with and whether that needs to be included. So I will let our two co-chairs of that committee, Tom and Scott, address that.
Yeah, I'll go first, I guess, Andrea. So in our last meeting with the Town and School Safety Task Force, we sort of discussed the idea that we'd maybe reached the end of our charter and that our next move was to come before the select board and sort of explain, give you a report of what's happened and what's been done so far, and sort of confer with the select board about whether the charter has been met. I would anticipate that it probably has been met. There may be some small dollar amounts that would come in between now and the time we come before you again. Those could relate to, there's a remaining issue with emergency communication that we're working on, which is unfortunately not resolved. But short answer is I think sometime in the next several meetings, we'll probably come back to you and present the work of the task force and have a discussion about whether the charter has been met.
Yeah, I think I just add to that the task force did meet, I think it was last week, and recommended that the school committee consider hiring one more SRO. So that would be a budget item that would come from the school committee. So I think this bullet point is useful for at least one more year.
Okay. I guess though, go ahead, Anita, and then John. I'm thinking out loud. Go ahead.
I don't know if we have the same question, but if it's going to come in through the school committee, does it need to be on the select board goals?
Yeah. And I guess, and if there are, Tom, some small items, and small is in parentheses, in quotation marks, okay? Small items that the task force might be recommending, is it significant enough to be a town manager goal? Is it going to be the task force? Is it going to be something, some other group that gets put together for the final sort of impetus for this? I'm not sure. Those are just sort of questions that I'm asking. John, and then Scott.
Well, my view on this is, things change. And this committee has done a great job in addressing the issues. I think we're going to have to continue to look at this in kind of a routine or a regular way to make sure that we have everything covered. I don't think we can just button up and say, task accomplished. I think they have accomplished, maybe they've accomplished their charter. We may want to look at changing that or doing it some other way. But I would consider just leaving it here for one more year at least to cover that. But my concerns would be kind of continual monitoring of school safety and community safety.
Well, I think actually, John, I agree with you. And so I think that is somewhat different than what the goal is here, which says to consider select board and school committee requests from town and school safety task force recommendation, analyze possible funding to meet those requests as feasible. I think what we're saying and what you're saying is that, this is something that we have to, that we should continue to monitor and be aware of. And I think tasking the town manager, and I'm not disagreeing with you with that objective, I think is slightly different than what's here.
Okay.
Scott?
Well, I think it's just two things. One, I think as John is correct that there'll be an ongoing need for some form of evaluation of school safety. We could probably disband the task force and still create some kind of regular dialogue between public safety and schools to make sure that happens. But in terms of this bullet point, the task force recommended one SRO, and the school committee may or may not decide that fits in with their priorities. But if they did, that does create a budgetary issue that the town manager and the school may have to work out, or the school superintendent has to work out. So I think it does stand for a year until we resolve that staffing issue one way or the other.
Okay, Anita?
I would think I think those are all really good points. And I obviously care about school safety. I don't want to make it sound like I don't, but isn't that something between the school committee and the police department? I know they have an MOU, right? Isn't that more their territory than ours?
It's the budget, right? So I guess to me, it's a budget item that is both school and school, both police and school committee, and therefore town manager and school superintendent have both got a role. Therefore, select board and school committee do. But that's just my interpretation of how we would make the budget work.
Tom, and then John. Unless Anita, do you have another question? I'm sorry.
Well, I just to follow up to Scott's thing was, but the SRO budget comes out of the school budget. It's not out of something else. So I just wanted to add that point too to what you were saying.
And then Tom, and then John.
Okay, we're one town and one budget. So
I guess in terms of this bullet point, I guess I propose that we leave it for now. I think we're close to sort of reaching some new steady state with the Town and School Safety Task Force, but I don't think it would cost us anything to leave this item here. And there may be some cleanup or other items related to it. So I guess my thought would be probably just leave it for this year as we sort of decide together how we're going to complete this work.
And John?
I guess my point was that school safety is as much as our concern as is the school committee's concern, I think. So that's the reason I think we should stay involved.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. Anita?
Yeah, I guess I would just say that I'm not sure that I'm ready to accept this tonight then, because I have other priorities that I think I would add to this that are growing, such as DEI. We just talked about that and how that's a big town priority. Would we want to put that would we want to add that here? If town and school safety task force recommendations are waning, not saying that the work is not continuing, but we have a growing need somewhere else. Like we're talking about anticipated potential things that we're not even really sure about. So I'm not sure I would approve this tonight, at least my vote.
Okay, so a couple of things, and it usually takes us 1 or 2 meetings to approve this. I do think, though, remember, this is the budget policy direction. And then separate and apart from that will be setting goals for the town manager. And as I recall, there is a goal with respect to and concerning DEI in the town manager's goals from this past year. So I think maybe what we need to think about and consider, as you brought up, Anita, is there a budgetary impact here? And from the DEI committee that we should be considering putting a part of and putting that as part of this directive or not. So I think I'm happy to bring it back at our next meeting for everybody to give it a bit more consideration. And if there's anything else that we've missed that should be on this policy in this direction. So why don't we continue the discussion for our next meeting, if everybody agrees to that. Okay, we will do that. Hey, Eric, can you just, in case I forget, will you make a note that I've continued this to our next meeting? Thanks. All right, we approved contracts. Correspondence. Is there a motion to waive reading of correspondence? John, did I miss something?
Well, Eric held off on item number 3 under the contracts. Did he want to bring that back up, or did he just want it off for tonight?
I thought he just wanted it off for tonight.
Okay.
That's correct, just off for the night.
Yep. Okay. So we are at correspondence. Is there a motion to waive reading of correspondence? Okay. You want me to read the correspondence? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, just a show of hands. All right. And is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion to adjourn.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor? Great. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Westford. Everybody have a good night and stay safe.
See you Monday.